Remember when the Iowa State Capitol building allowed for a statue of Satan to be placed in the main walkway there? Yeah. Well, not everyone was okay with that. Michael Cassidy, a naval reservist, took matters into his own hands and beheaded the statue. As a result, Cassidy was charged with having committed crimes in Iowa. And now his employer, the U.S. Navy, wants to boot Cassidy out for being an extremist. Yes, according to a recent report from the Sentinel, Navy officials accused Michael Cassidy, the conservative Christian veteran who tore down a satanic altar in the Iowa State Capitol, of involvement in quote-unquote extremist activity as they seek to discharge him from the Navy. This has happened even though Iowa prosecutors dropped the hate crime charges against Cassidy this spring. The Navy Reserve Forces Command accused him of extremist activity as defined by an order issued under the Biden administration 3 years ago, and said his actions were inconsistent with the First Amendment. The accusations mean that Cassidy, who worked for nearly a decade at Naval Air Station Meridian as a Navy instructor pilot, and then as a private military contract pilot, would be permanently barred from working as an instructor pilot and as an officer in the Navy Reserve. Clearly, there is a spiritual component to this election, right? Not only are Democrats insisting that statues honoring the Dark Lord himself be erected and protected in state capitals, but Kamala is kicking out and mocking Christians who come to her rallies.
And they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
So I guess that means Kamala and the Democrats are on Team Satan this election. I guess that explains their love of mass abortions, that's for sure. And if there's anything that proves that this is truly a spiritual battle in 2024, well, I think that's it. And joining us now are none other than Michael Cassidy. He's the man at the center of this totally contrived controversy. And R. Davis Younts, who is a military defense attorney. Thank you both for being here. I can't think of a better example, Michael, of the fact that it is truly a battle of good versus evil than what you're currently experiencing right now in your personal life and your professional life.
Yes, thank you for having me on. It really is remarkable how far we've fallen as a country, where this kind of thing, statues to the devil, are not just normalized, but protected. In fact, I'm speaking for myself, not on behalf of the Department of Defense, of course, because they're trying to kick me out for being a domestic extremist. But they, in their investigation, have used evidence of the fact that I'm a Christian based on some X posts that I've done. They've used that as a negative, and they use the Satanic Temple's website, their mission statement, verbatim as a positive. The fact, like you described, that they're very pro-abortion, that they're for disaffected Christians, and it's just a complete 180 reversal of how things ought to be in our country. But that's what's going on with the administration right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is an action taken basically under, the politicization of the Biden regime. We've seen major change in focus of the military, right, since Biden came into office. And, last when we talked to you last, Michael, we were celebrating a win because they had dropped charges against you. Davis, is this constitutional, the action they're taking against Michael? It sounds to me like they're on shaky ground here.
They absolutely are on shaky ground, but it's worse. Under the Biden administration, we have seen radical changes in what the military now calls their anti-extremism policy. So when you look at the policies the Department of Defense has adopted that are cited in Michael's case, anyone who holds traditional Christian values regarding marriage, regarding reproductive rights, as they like to call it, can be easily labeled an extremist. And that's what they've done in this case. And keep in mind, all that Michael did was say, look, this organization, all they do is troll Christians. They like to make fun of Christians. They like to make it extremely difficult for there to be any Christian displays in a public place. They put this idol there in order to mock the nativity scene that was right next to it and disrupt the worship of that. But the Navy is now taking 4 tweets that are just saying non-controversial things about Christ that were deemed partisan. And now they're saying, we're going to side with Satan. We're going to side with the Satanic Temple. They're a great organization that we want to support. And someone like Michael with traditional Christian values is out. So it is not hyperbole to say that's what's at stake in this election. Listen, when Harris was a senator, the first thing she did was endorse and sponsor a bill that would have gutted the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I mean, imagine that. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act, other than the Constitution itself, as an attorney, I rely on that constantly for my clients, advocating for them. She wanted to gut that as a senator. That's what's at stake at this election. There's so much going on in the military that needs to be addressed. And sadly, I can tell you, Michael is not my only client that is being labeled a domestic extremist because of their Christian beliefs. Far from it.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Mike. I was just about to say, you're not alone in this battle against, we call it wokeism, but it's so much more than that, right? In the military, in fact, Matthew Lohmeyer, he's a Space Force lieutenant colonel, was kicked out for calling out the woke teaching in the military. Take a listen to what he said.
I filed a formal written Inspector General's complaint detailing in this report what exactly was happening at my base that was both anti-American and rooted in Marxism and divisive. There's a white colonel who was in charge of the Space Force Inspector General's office. He called me and he says, hey, when you've got a moment, I need to talk with you and counsel with you about how to handle these things in the future. The man against whom you filed a complaint is a black colonel, and he's one of 3 colonels up for promotion to 1-star general. And you don't write a complaint against a black man who's up for promotion to 1-star general when we've only got one black man up for promotion to general. He was an activist. He did terrible things as a base commander. He should have been fired and court-martialed. He held up pictures of the Trump cabinet and asked only his white employees, what's wrong with this picture? The problem is that they're all white. That's punishable by court-martial. It's racist, it's illegal, it's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Michael, when you joined the military, did you ever imagine that it would change so fundamentally like this?
No, I did not. And that's one thing. Davis talked about how there's so much at stake this election that right now, even with all of the people that have been kicked out and persecuted by this administration, so many people in the military still really are conservative. They're Christian. They think like me. But if we have leadership, civilian leadership, that sets these policies, these anti-Christian, these woke policies, then higher ups in the military, and then it bleeds down. These people, if they want to keep their careers, they enforce these policies that they may not agree with personally, but they aren't willing to risk their career to stand up against this wokeism, this anti-Christian bigotry that's been going on in the military. And no, none of us would have imagined that this is what the military would be like when we first joined.
Do you feel like, Michael, a lot of your fellow servicemen are feeling like they have to hide their true beliefs and political ideology, or just even try to keep? I think I've known a few, and I've seen them kind of change over the years. I think it's that out of fear that they're going to face repercussions like yourself for even less action. Do you feel like a lot of people are kind of in hiding now in the military, conservative-wise?
Certainly. I believe that when you see cases like mine, you see other cases like Matt's, that it sends a chilling message to people, to other service members, that if you speak up, then even, like I'm a reservist, I'm not even doing this on active duty. But if you speak up, if you use your constitutional rights, if you stand up for yourself, if you just stand up for Jesus, then that's something that gets you marked as an enemy, and people are scared of that, which is so absurd. That's something that we hear about happening in places across the world. We don't think of that as happening in the United States of America. And so that's got to change. And that's going to keep happening and getting worse if we get a Kamala administration on November 5th.
Davis, what happens next in Michael's case? I feel like in some of the vaccine mandate cases, we had a positive resolution, but it took a long time. How long do you think it's going to take to resolve the situation for Michael?
It's going to take a long time. It's going to take months and months and months, and we're going to need, it's going to put in a lot of work. Listen, the sad reality is, in his case in Iowa, the reason we were able to get the Soros-funded prosecutor to back down there is we had resources. People came behind Michael. We had the resources to do everything we could to fight back with every motion, to push back hard with lawfare, if you will. And we need to look at the same options with the Navy in this case. But I think, one of our prayers is, if Trump wins this election and people like Matt Lohmeyer, John Frankman, and others are influencing policy with the military, perhaps this case goes away, but we still need to draw attention to it. If Trump doesn't win, this is going to be a long, protracted fight for justice for Michael, and it really does set precedent for many other clients I have that are being labeled extremists because they believe what the Bible says and they try to live it out.
And look, it's you all right now, it's certain journalists right now, but in the future it will be just your average American facing these same kind of repercussions from a rogue administration. This election means so much, not just you, Michael, but for all of us. Thank you both for joining us, and thank you for your courage and continuing to stand strong in your faith, Michael. I admire you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget, we can only talk about the topics we talk about on this show because of the support of Mike Lindell and the good folks over at MyPillow. So go to mypillow.com, use the promo code TRUTH. He's running some fantastic deals on all kinds of fantastic products. Or you can call the number you see at the bottom of your screen, 800-944-5396, and be sure to tell them you want to use the promo code TRUTH. We will be back tomorrow with more of this on the ground in some of the key states across the country as the election proceeds. So be sure to join us tomorrow for more Absolute Truth.